And good morning. This is Jay Cleveland Payne. And today we are back for a Wednesday attempt at coffee and conversation. We're going to see how well we can do this and see if this thing works out. So, if you're seeing my face pop up in your feed, whether it's on your YouTube Live, which you probably hear it or get a notification, or popping up in your Facebook, I'm broadcasting live at the moment on the This is the Conversation Facebook page and also on the J. Cleveland Payne page. Turn your sound on now, right now, so you can hear the lovely voice, the tones that are coming out of my mouth, and the words that I'll be saying soon to talk about news stories to talk about today. The 8 Things to Talk About newsletter is a publication brought to you by me and the folks behind the Conversation Project. And with that project, we do what we can do to talk about news stories, the best news stories to talk about throughout the week. And days specifically. So what we'll talk about in just a moment are the top 8 stories, the 8 things to talk about from the past 36 hours or so based on your Facebook and your Twitter responses. Now, thank you so much for joining us for these live things. These things are going as they are. If you're not subscribed to the newsletter, there's a link in the description to today's newsletter where you can read along. I'll actually have it on my second screen and I'll read it along with you guys here. That you can go make sure you are subscribe to this newsletter. So 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, will give you 8 things to go into the office, go out to this town square, go to the supermarket, shopping center, supermarket, and talk to folks about. These are 8 top stories based on responses on social media. These are 8 top stories based on what people around the world basically tagged into and responded to in those things. To be a part of that, follow us on social media. There'll be links to the website a little bit later on. Thisisconversation.com, and you can follow us on social media where you can follow us on Facebook, This is Conversation, and on Twitter, @_conversation. And as you check your feed throughout the day, you just engage with stories that you'd like to see, and those stories make it to the tops of the tops. That's how that works out. So let's go ahead and, real quick to keep things going. This is Coffee and Conversation. I've got coffee right here. And if you want to support the efforts that we have going on, it's very simple. Go to buymeacoffee.com/JClevelandPayne. That's where we basically consolidated all of our philanthropic efforts, if you will. We're moving away from Patreon. Buy Me a Coffee does most of the things that it did there. It's a lot similar. And if you just want to buy a one-time donation, 1 cup of coffee, it's simple for there. So for all the guys that help me get this thing done, and for me itself, offset the cost of this project plus other projects that go on by going to buymeacoffee.com/JClevelandPayne. Yes, it should be more better media for the media company, but this one's already set up. So if you want to help keep things along, a cup of coffee, paying for this coffee, or I should say this coffee right here. I drink horrible coffee, so it's instant sludge. Helps out a lot. So let's get to the news, because that's what you guys really want me to do and not chit chat so much. And we're going to click the right button and things will work out well. Because I took it away. There we go, because I ended up taking out of the feed. So this is today's 8 Things to Talk About newsletter for Wednesday, the 26th of May. And there are, as it says, 8 news stories that were put out over the last day and a half or so that you guys put the most response to. So some of these stories are technically late Monday stories, and some could be early Wednesday stories based on how respondings go. The biggest story of the day, which surprised me, was the fact that people are really into the NFL after the draft's gone, who's going to be filling the spots for the seats for the season coming forward in teams. And right now, the biggest get looks like it could be Julio Jones. The problem with that is no one's actually set aside any time with the Atlanta Falcons to get a trade, or Julio Jones not reached out to leave and sign with someone yet. We don't know who he's talking to. He says he'd like to play for Dallas, but everybody says like to play for Dallas because they pay a lot of money. The problem that we had was a few days back, Monday, Shannon Sharpe pulled out his cell phone and started talking to Julio Jones about what he might do with his future. And there's a bit of a gray area because no one's actually said it yet on whether Shannon Sharpe was talking to Julio Jones and Julio Jones thought he was just chit-chatting with former football guy, or he knew he was on the air live on their version, Undisputed, Fox Sports version of First Take, which basically has Skip Bayless, so they're basically the same show. So there might be some issues. In California, it is illegal to basically record or broadcast conversations over the phone with people who don't know that they're being broadcast or recorded. That's a big law in a lot of places, and that's something that was a really big deal back in the day when people started recording phone calls and cell phone conversations for just for various reasons. All those laws popped up and were very vocal. Now people just assume that you're always streaming, so they don't think about it. But if Shannon Sharp actually put this phone call on the air without Julio's knowledge, knowing that he was being on the air live for him and Skip to basically bitch about it, there could be issues for Fox Sports. If Julio knew what was going on, there's no big deal. The problem is nobody's actually speaking up on that one yet. Big deal happening yesterday evening. Manhattan District Attorney convenes a special grand jury in the Trump probe. The short version of this is a grand jury has been convened, which will have secrecy in the proceedings. They can go over all the evidence, talk to all the witnesses that they want to in the Manhattan District Court. This is state court, not federal court. This is New York State Court, and the district is Manhattan, where they can go through all the evidence they want to see if they should actually prosecute or indict, should say, Donald Trump or the Trump organization. Now, it's grand jury, so it's all secret. We know they're meeting 3 days a week for 6 months. They're also going to meet on some other high-profile cases, so it's not all Trump work, but this has been convened by the DA there, who is essentially a lame duck. Cy Vance is done at the end of this year. He's not running for re-election, so it looks like he's going out with one big swing of the bat to see what's going to happen with this thing, and we'll see how it goes through. So we will see how it goes through. For 6 months, the grand jury will meet and talk about all things Donald Trumpish, and we'll see if at the end of it, there'll be indictments for whomever or whatever. Maybe it's for Trump. Maybe it's for people around Trump that he just had to be in his orbit. Maybe it's for the Trump organization, because the experts are saying it's harder to really indict one guy. It's really easier to get the group, because Donald Trump, a guy who doesn't use email, doesn't have paper trails, and just basically says, oh, my lawyer says this was cool, so I went with it. It works for him. Good morning, Georgia Morris. Thank you so much for joining us for Coffee and Conversation. I'm not sure what you're having. Hopefully you're having a great cup of coffee with you this morning and getting the news going on. Take that moment for a quick sip, because it is Coffee and Conversation. If you have any comments or chats, anybody live on here or in the future, because you can chat in most of these features going forward, at least on Facebook. Send me some comments here inside the feed. Let me know how this is working, how it sounds. I have the cheaper microphone, if you will, so the sound isn't the best in the room in the office. Office is not treated for audio, but it works. It's faster to do, and I can't hear myself with the return, so I also have that going against me. Let me know how I'm doing. Let me know how this is doing. Let me know if you're enjoying the newsletter. And a comment I got from my wife the other day was that I stopped being pithy again with the news, and now go back to being thicker articles. Is that better? Is that worse? Is there any way you'd like me to update the articles? We can work that as well. The third story, with engagement of 9.06%. I'm gonna have to move that over so I can read a little better. Oh, by the way, the engagement for the first two were about 15.3% and 11.11%. This one got about 9% engagement. Shots were fired near the George Floyd Square in Minneapolis as community marks the anniversary of his death. Yesterday was the 1-year anniversary of his death, and it's hard to say it's an anniversary, because anniversaries are usually made for celebration or sometimes it's commemoration. So a lot of people say it's the 1-year commemoration of his death at that space. Now, that space there in Minneapolis has eventually become known as, I'm not sure it's officially known as, but George Floyd Square, and it's been cordoned off. There's no traffic there. There's not much commerce there. I don't think the cup foods that the store that is there is even able to operate, to be honest, because from pictures I see, there's just there's not barricades, but there's tape up and there's stuff there all over the place. I do know that commerce in the area is bad, because traffic in the area is bad there because of lack of traffic. But we did have a shooting or shots fired near the area. It was a quick something. As many as 30 gunshots were heard nearby, but after it was done, we have words here in the article from a reporter, a photographer on the scene. Basically, they heard the shots, they checked everybody out, they're looking into it, but no one seems to be hurt from the incident. The fourth story got basically a tie, 9.06%, if I can read properly as well. Same amount of response as the previous story. Megadeth fired their bassist David Elfison over sexual misconduct allegations, which have gone on for years. And this is one of the founding members of the band, and it's weird because it's from The Guardian, so it's from the UK, and they open up the article saying that Megadeth, the popular American thrash metal band, which I'm not sure how popular they are these days, unless you're like my age and you're still listening to a lot of Megadeth. I guess they are a popular thrash metal band. Is thrash metal is still a thing? I don't even know about that. But essentially, he's been canceled and officially fired from the band for sexual misconduct allegations that have gone on for years. Check out the website, check out the newsletter, check out The Guardian for more of the story, or anywhere. Just search Megadeth basis and for deeper into the story. It goes deeper into what went on and the long sort of, they all do rambly sort of types of discussions, the explanations of what goes on. You get that as well. The story that came in at number 5, Kevin McCarthy, the House Minority Leader, finally chimed in on what was going on with the words of Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, the Republican from Florida. McCarthy, who is the House Minority Leader, finally spoke out on Taylor Greene's words about comparing mask wearing and the pandemic to Jews being killed in the Holocaust, which pretty much anyone with a voice has said is total other nonsense, and mostly used larger terms than nonsense. Kevin McCarthy basically said the same thing, that she is wrong. It's not a fair comparison. It's not even close. It's not a good thing to say. What he didn't say was, would there be any sort of reprimands for these words? Would he say anything against this? Would they take away committee seatings? Would they do something to sort of censure her? Those words weren't said because they're not going to be said. We're going to move on from that, go forward from that, and just let that one slide. You can figure out, read between the lines and read the story. You can get that one. The number 6 story, because John can't count, is Powerpuff Girls. Now, this is an interesting one because we're going to wrap up with two stories from the CW network, which it's one of those things where here in my local city, Arkansas, we have a CW that's over the air, but it doesn't have the rights to air on the streaming services. I use YouTube TV for TV. So the weird thing is I can see it video on demand next day, but I can't see it live. So I still watch CW shows because emotionally I'm a 14-year-old. So that's basically what they gear to, and I still watch a lot of the Arrowverse shows, although I wasn't so much into Arrow or Supergirl or some of the main shows, but Powerpuff was one that I was interested in, and upcoming we'll talk about Black Lightning. Powerpuff Girls live action show that was going to go to CW has been scrapped. At least the pilot's has been scrapped. Everyone attached to the show is still on board. There were some leaks a few weeks ago of scenes from the filming that had the girls, who are now young women, as this is the CW, so it's angsty, not so much Powerpuff Girls, but angsty Powerpuff 20-year-olds and Professor Utonium still dealing with fighting crime and just being angsty, I guess. But they thought that the show was too campy. The stills that were basically leaked were images of the characters essentially dressed up in costumes that look a lot like the cartoon characters did. And people were sort of worried about that. And then people said, oh, no, it's an update. It's going on. And then the powers that be basically said it was too silly, too kiddie, too campy to be done. So no one's been fired yet. They're just reworking the script to make it more angsty. Like the Riverdale ones basically brought in werewolves because Archie and werewolves. Don't know. Don't watch that one either. So can't get that one. Now, a show I just watched yesterday with the series finale, Black Lightning. And I was a little head scratched on this one when they already announced Black Lightning was going to be canceled after this season, which they can do that. But they also at the same time announced that they would be doing a spin-off series, Painkiller. Painkiller is a story about a main character from the first season that helped sort of chart the way, named Khalil Payne, who was hurt in an accident and then given a metal skeleton, and one of the side effects of the actual the actual surgery and going with that was it made his blood poison. And so he essentially had the power to inject his blood, inject poison into his foes and kill them. So that was the painkiller. The character evolved with some weird evolution of the show, where painkiller was actually stolen, if you will, by the secret government organization who put in cyber commands to actually up his ante, basically turned him into a killing machine and put in an order into his head to kill the main characters of the show. However, to stop himself from killing that, at some point, the real Khalil took over of the personality. He was basically a split personality being held back by the painkiller programming, and they essentially share the body and share the mind of Khalil. And with that, a backdoor pilot came up this season where they went to where Khalil was hiding out. He was living in this weird, funky Las Vegas high-tech version of itself, and just sort of dealing on his own stuff and sort of working back and forth in tandem most times with the painkiller persona. They turned that into that backdoor pilot because they basically said it was going to be a series, and they actually used painkiller Khalil character for the later episodes of Black Lightning to close off some of the loose ends, and actually played off in the series finale the kicker to basically cut all ties from the show. Essentially, painkiller lost or was able to have that kill order pulled out of his brain, but in the process he forgot a big chunk of his past, which included the actual family and the love of his life, who he was programmed to kill, because he couldn't stop himself when he was near the family from killing them. It was literally programmed in his brain to do that. Painkiller will not be picked up by the CW. There's still a chance that HBO Max may take it on. We'll see, because they are attached to a lot of the Warner Brothers properties. And CW does have some connections with HBO Max with some of the other Warner Brothers larger things going on. In fact, I believe that's where Titans is airing right now, and other things like the Doom Patrol, things like that are somewhere in the HBO Max family, and things that are not quite ready for prime time, not quite Arrowverse stuff. However, based on the Arrowverse, they had a big crossover a couple of years ago where they essentially literally found a way to wrap their multiple universe stories into one, and basically collapse all the worlds into a handful of universes, confirming that Black Lightning lives in the same universe as Supergirl, Batwoman, and the Flash. There's a quick crossover there as well. Getting too nerdy, I'm sorry about that. But the main point is, with 3.4% in engagement over the past day, people cared about Painkiller not making the series debut on CW, or it might have been the fact that they're feeling a little pain, pun intended, from the loss of Black Lightning and not seeing that any character would possibly come in there. Even though, as you said, it would have been a long shot to get one of those characters onto this thing because of the way that this plot went. You'd have to go back and watch the show. It's actually a very good show, and it's very thought processing. And I said thought processing on purpose, because it brought in a lot of the culture and the civil unrest issues that we're seeing right now in the communities of color, not just Black communities, because there was a lot of talk about other folks, included dealt with levels on poverty and levels on heritage and level of just flat out race relations. So a lot of good things from that one. Plus seeing a Black superhero on TV is always a good thing. And finally, Amazon deal to acquire MGM to come as soon as Tuesday. We posted this from a story that came out on late Monday. On Tuesday, the deal, as far as I know, is not popped out, and today is Wednesday. But what we're knowing about this big old thing is Amazon's going to buy the Metro Goldwyn Mayer. I can't read it because it's so small here, but the MGM studio stuff, which means Amazon would own the rights to the James Bond stuff, the Pink Panther, good old RoboCop, and all the Rocky franchises, and also things such as Silence of the Lambs. Of course, Amazon's already going big time this upcoming season, paying a big chunk of money for football and some other different properties as well. But we will see exactly what's happening. Actually, we see exactly what's happening. We're seeing a massive glut of media companies becoming streaming services, becoming their own independent cable companies, making us pay not quite the premium price for each one, but if you pay for all of them so you don't miss out on something, you're paying for a very big price, just like big cable, except not to one guy. It is what it is. It be what it be. It do what it do. So those are the 8 stories that we had for this week. Reading one more time with the quick headlines. Fox Sports could face legal issues if Julio Jones didn't know his call with Shannon Sharpe was live on TV, or was on live TV, if I could actually read that. Manhattan District Attorney convened special grand jury in Trump probe. Shots fired near George Floyd Square in Minneapolis as community marks anniversary of his death. Megadeth fired bassist David Elfinson over sexual misconduct allegations. McCarthy condemns Marjorie Taylor Greene's comparisons to COVID rules to Holocaust. Powerpuff Girls live action reboot pilot was scrapped for being too campy, says CW CEO. Black Lightning spinoff Painkiller not picked up at the CW. An Amazon deal to acquire MGM to come as soon as Tuesday. Thank you so much for joining me for today's version of Coffee and Conversation. Hopefully it has been a boom to you. It's been improving incrementally. We tried to fix the messy room by switching the camera angle and zooming in. Didn't quite work. So it took a couple minutes to get this thing launched. Thank you so much for joining me live. If you popped in live, thank you so much for watching this in the future and getting your jaunt on here. There's a link to the newsletter in the details in the description for this post. So you can click on today's newsletter online and then click the link to subscribe to it so that every single morning about 5:50, 6 o'clock, you'll get the newsletter for yourself to read and click the things go forward and further. So if you're looking for ways to get into the news and see what people are talking about, this is a quick way. This is not a primary source of news. I am not a on the beat news journalist. I think I am a journalist, but this is an aggregator of some top stories that we pull from various different sources. Some of them you may agree with, some you may not. Some of the write-ups you may not like because they're from a source you're not so happy with, but they're the stories that aren't picking up or catching people's attention, and we're trying to get stories to catch people's attention. We post about 30 stories within a day. Every 50 minutes we post a new story. About 30 stories get posted throughout the total day, and those are the 8 that had the base top response in the time frame. So it is what it is. It do what it do. That's how it goes. If you want more information about what's going on, go to thisistheconversation.com. There are links there for you to find the podcast that we have on the weekends that will do the countdowns of the top 10 stories, plus the story at the very, very bottom, the story of the week that got basically no attention. We do that every week. You can also find where you can get us on social media, Facebook, This Is a Conversation. Also on Instagram, This Is a Conversation. That's kind of quiet though. And th_conversation on Twitter. On Facebook and Twitter, you can respond and reply to all the stories out there and see what's going on. And you can be a part of the judge. You basically write the news for me, or you judge, you rank the news for me. And it's written by other people. I just paraphrase it. You rank the news for me. So we write the podcast on what stories we talk about and give commentary at the end of the week. As you see at the bottom of the scroll saying to support the effort, visit buymeacoffee.com/JClevelandPayne. Buy me and the crew that helps out with this thing a coffee to help keep the work going on. It helps funds the things behind all the more better media parts. We may make a more better media one soon, but for right now, because this one's set up and taxes, support me. buymeacoffee.com/JClevelandPayne. That should be all the links, all the stuff. If you want to support further, you go to our website, you go to our newsletter. If you see ads in our feed, visit those people as well. Visit those vendors. They are all good, proper folks who do good jobs and things for people. And if you buy from them, it costs you nothing extra. It's an affiliate link. We get a couple pennies per sale. So thanks a lot for helping us that way. And that also costs you nothing extra. You're buying stuff anyway. So there you go. I'm Jay Cleveland Payne for the crew behind the Conversation Project. And This Is the Conversation. I say thank you for this Wednesday. Have a great day. Go prosperous day. If you want to chat with us, email us at theconversationinbox@gmail.com or email me directly, jclevelandpayne@gmail.com. And we can talk about news stories. We can talk about life. We can catch up what's going on. We'll do some more stuff, and we'll have some instant polls coming up in a few weeks where we'll give you a chance to win money. Yes, well, money. We had some great response with some tests out there. So we'll do that coming up soon. So look out for that. Though for those things, you have to be on the feed so that you can actually see them come up and reply to that. In the meantime, thank you so much. Enjoy your Wednesday.